Welcome to the HVM panel discussion. My name is Bill May. I'm the president of HVMC, and joining me today is some of our team members, Don, Pat, Becky, and Brian. And we're here today to discuss some subject matters that have come to us from many of you who are watching, and we want to give you a chance to kind of understand how we approach some of these things that maybe is unique from your perspective than what you've seen with other companies. So with that, we're going to get started. We're going to run through these questions that were given to us by some of you there in the audience. Number one is submitted by Jim. What is high-value manufacturing? I'm going to take this one because the first blog that I wrote when I started my company many years ago was just about that subject. What is high-value manufacturing? Let's start like I typically try to do with the academic definition. That is, in the industry or in the universities, how do they define high-value manufacturing? It's defined as this: companies who benefit from highly skilled and knowledge-intensive manufacturing operations is considered a high-value manufacturing. In our company, we go a little bit further because that's pretty nebulous. So what we say is that high-value manufacturing is a company where you have improved margins, improved quality, reduced costs, greater throughput per labor hour, and that you're able to streamline your new product launches. That, in essence, is what high-value manufacturing is and what our company does. So I think that's a good first question to lay out there that came at an appropriate time. So this is a question that was provided by Leslie. It's around supply chain. And Becky, I think I'm going to give this one to you. All right. How can manufacturers make sure their suppliers are performing well? When it comes to their tier 2 suppliers and down the chain, what can manufacturers do to make sure product quality is satisfactory and costs are under control? Becky?
Well, I think one of the first things that you can do as a manufacturer with your supply base is talk to them. You've got to get out of your office and go out and visit the suppliers and have a conversation with them. Walk their floor, take a look at their operations, take a look at their scrap. The other thing that you can do and should do is have metrics that each supplier is supposed to submit. Not only your tier 1s, but your tier 2s and your tier 3s. In order to make sure that they're meeting expectations on an ongoing basis. The third thing you can do with them is make sure they're compliant to IATF 16949 or QS 9000. I didn't say certified, I said compliant, to make sure that they live and breathe within the boundaries of what is necessary to get that certification.
Good. Thank you, Becky. This next question comes from Glenn, and I'm going to answer it because it really comes off from what Becky just said. How do I ensure my vendors and my supply chain are not introducing counterfeit components and devices into my finished product? What standards would I reference for guidance? And I think Becky summarized it pretty well. You got to go see. You got to go look. You got to look at the manufacturing process and make sure what they're doing is what they say they're doing. She referenced some of the standard methods of doing that with IATF and others, but you got to go see. You can't mail that in. You can't send an email and says, "Are you sending counterfeit products to us?" You got to go see. Next question came from Kevin. What is the difference between being compliant with an industry standards and versus earning certification? And what is the process of getting certified? And do we need to? Becky, you want to take a whack at that one? You just answered that pretty well, I think.
I just answered that, but I think I'm going to hand it to Pat and see what he has to say.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Beck. So what's the difference between being compliant and industry standard? There's not a whole lot as far as the fact is that every one of the elements of compliance fits into a certain category. Whether the company or your agency is looking to become compliant, whether it's ISO or TS, there's certain standards that you have to adhere to. Compliant is really is the fact that you are adhering to those standards and you're practicing it every day. What is certification? So certification is that you're audited by a third-party auditor, and they are certifying that you are adhering to those standards. Okay?
All right, thanks, Pat. Okay, this question is about labor, and it came from Mitch. And I think I'm going to throw this one over to Don because I think he can probably answer it very well for us. It seems like the bench of the manufacturing experience is dwindling. The older, more experienced engineers and technicians are retiring, and there doesn't seem to be a sufficient pipeline to replace that knowledge gap. What does it mean for the industry?
That's a true statement. It seems like there's an extreme amount of knowledge out there that is retiring early in the manufacturing world. And one thing that's important is how do we tap into that retirement pool of knowledge and utilize it to help educate the up-and-coming gap of people. There's a large gap in that knowledge right now. So one opportunity is using the retirement individuals as a gap filler to the customer base and bringing in those people for short periods of time. A lot of these experienced people still want to pass on a lot of their knowledge and their lessons learned and all their experience. So we have found success in bringing some of those people on board and helping to support the customer. And one thing that's important is always leaving them with a coaching and a teaching opportunity and passing on the skill sets that those resources have gained.
Thanks, Don. And Brian, I think we're going to give this one to you. I think we recently had discussions around this. When it comes to industry experience versus transfer of information degrees, we are seeing folks with 20 plus years actual experience being challenged by degree requirements. For example, some states have created equivalencies for experience versus degrees to protect the military retirees with experience without formal degrees. Is this a positive workforce solution?
Thanks, Bill. When it comes to experience versus transfer of information, I think a lot of it depends on your organization structure. The folks that live out on the floor have a lot of hands-on experience. You can have a degree and never make the floor, and that'll be a problem because you're no help to the people out on the floor. So it's kind of a mix. There needs to be a mix with this. Is it positive? It can be if it's handled right. If your folks are willing to go out on the floor, that can be a positive experience. If they're not willing to go out on the floor, then that's a challenge for your organization.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to take this question only because I think I know the individual this came from. He and I have had this discussion before. And the question is this: why don't American companies have innovation portals like most foreign manufacturers have to review new technology that affect the manufacturing process? This seems to be a problem that developed over the last 20 years. This is a good question, and some of the most innovative companies do have a way for people to introduce new technology into manufacturing and other areas. Why don't more people do it in the U.S.? I have a theory. My theory is pretty simple. They're too busy putting out forest fires. They're probably thinking, well, the last thing I need is some innovative new manufacturing process. I can't even keep the ones I got running right. Now, that may seem a little bit defeatist, but it's probably the reality of what's going on. They're just so busy stomping out fires, they don't have time to think about new ways of doing things. And it has created some issues in the U.S. relative to competitiveness in the manufacturing world. We're willing to take those things on. Most innovations in this country come through product design, if you go back and really look at them. That forces some level of manufacturing innovation. So, and this individual is right on point. A lot of our foreign competitors, especially the Japanese, are always looking for ways to improve their processes. And they're inviting that in, but not so much for the U.S. manufacturers. This is next one I want to give. I'll give this to Pat because I think he He probably has some perfect examples of how this happened. When your firm is hired by a manufacturing client, is it usually because of a crisis or a basic process improvement? What usually prompts them to look for consulting services?
All right, thank you, Bill. So why would you hire a company like us? It's usually a situation where you recognize that you have issues with either your profitability of your plant or plants. You have issues in your quality systems and the way that impacts your end customer. You have situations where that obviously the finance folks are looking at the profitability and what impact your either inefficiencies or mistakes that you're making in your company. Is it because of a crisis? It's probably usually that prompts it, and it's usually prompted by some higher ups within the organization that says to company X, you've got a problem, your profitability is terrible, your quality system, your quality measurements, and your customer complaints are giving us a fit, if you will. So I think it can encompass the basic process improvement in that issue once you get into the organization that you're trying to help. What usually prompts them to look for someone like HVMC to come in and help them? I think a lot of it is exactly what I said. But why would you look for us? And I think you would look for us in terms of the experience and the bandwidth that each of the team members have that would prompt you to say, I've got a problem with quality. Okay, we can do that. We have a problem with lean. We can do that. So I think you're starting to, when you start that venture, you're starting to search and look for a company like us to a specific problem or problems that you're having that's impacting your ability to be profitable. Okay.
All right, thank you, Pat. This next one's going to Don because I know he's spent a big part of his career doing these things. What advice would you give a company preparing to launch a new plant or a new product?
Thank you, Bill. That's a good one. One thing we tend to do in manufacturing is feel like we got to recreate the wheel many times. And I'd recommend to almost every manufacturer, try to utilize best practices, known common systems, benchmark capabilities within your industry. When you start with a best practice and a best known system, it allows you to have a baseline that you can network with other individuals that are doing the same process, or you may learn from somebody a better way to do it. It will help accelerate your launch. It will improve on your capability to meet your capacity. It will allow you to build a long-term network of people you can learn from. So always utilize best practices, common systems known in the industry. Don't feel like you have to go recreate the wheel and be that one person out there starting a new process.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Don. This next one's gone to Brian only because he happens to be working in this particular environment. And before he started on this assignment, his hair was not gray. Obviously, I'm making a joke there. He's had gray hair for a long time. What are the industry insights into small batch manufacturing? Brian?
Thanks, Bill. Small batch industry insights to small batch manufacturing as lot sizes change and requirements from customers change. You see a lot more of small batch sizes. It's not uncommon for a company to have multiple setups, multiple changeovers. When that happens and you're running economical lot sizes or smaller lot sizes, it's important that your changeover time is effective, because in some cases, the changeover time can be more than the actual run. So you have to make sure that you're using SMED activities to help you with setup reduction, and that will help as far as the number of changeovers and the amount of time you spend doing changeovers.
Thank you for watching HVMC's panel. If there is anything that stuck out to you or something you want to hear more about, let us know. In the meantime, follow us on social media and check out our blog. We'll see you next time.